What's my SatAttack squad? It's your boy SatAttack. One of y'all shit tired of man back checking the horrors waiting in room 1025. The strange case of Michaela. I'm sorry, I'm not even gonna try to pronounce your last name. I'm not gonna try to like, because I know I'm gonna be way off with it. But Road 2K, man, help but out one stupid going dumb, man. It's a 30-minute video. Hit that subscribe button, man. One stupid. And comment down below which other video to react to. Could be anything like I say all the time, but yeah, let's get it.
Crashing waves, the idyllic sights of turquoise ocean, and the thirst-quenching taste of a pina colada. These are a few things that perfectly describe a tropical holiday. But when Irish couple John and Michaela McAreavey traveled...
My fucking shit even off. My mic's on, I'm sorry. Had to test
to Mauritius to celebrate their wedding, neither had expected the honeymoon to turn into a nightmare, and in fact, one of them would never return home. The tragic events of this case were perpetuated by fame, corruption, and a poorly handled investigation. But who ultimately was to blame for the events which took place? And what were the dramatic consequences?
That boy look angry.
When jetting off, what were the dramatic consequences? When jetting off to places far away, we all tend to have fun and take marginal risks. But in Michaela's case, her time in paradise was as safe as one could be. So, what evil found her? And how did it all go so terribly wrong? Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, folks.
Good night.
My name is Adrian.
And good night, sir. 10 or 12 o'clock in the morning.
And welcome
back
to
Coffee House Crime.
Today we're looking at the perplexing case of Michaela McAreavey. A general disclaimer to those who don't like unsolved cases, but this one is still to be fully understood.
Oh,
so please take this
like
unsolved cases, but this one is still to be fully understood.
Cases.
So please take this as your one and only warning. And by the way,
I hate them because like I always like, bro, what happened? Like I'm always curious to see. Like I need to know what happened. You know what I'm saying? Like, I gotta know the bad guy.
Post true crime and strange cases here on a weekly basis. So if that does sound like your kind of thing, please consider subscribing to the channel. And now, with that said, please grab yourself a coffee, pull up a seat, and get ready for the deep dive. This is the case of Michaela McAreavey.
It's not coffee time, my boy. Well, fuck, it's unsolved. That's tough. I hate those.
Bonjour, folks. Today, we find ourselves in a new location on the Coffee House crime map, and that is the fascinating East African island of Mauritius. And let me tell you, when it comes to tropical paradises, you will be challenged to find a more fitting place. Located off Africa's eastern coastline, but part of the Indian Ocean, Mauritius is home to fantastic weather throughout the entire year. Regardless
I cannot swim, so I would be scared to live there.
A month, the average temperature always remains...
That's too close to the water, bro. Like,
it's between 26 and 21 degrees Celsius, which for you Americans out there is between 80 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit. And to add to all of this, you're nearly always guaranteed to have at least 7 hours of sunshine every single day. The island nation is well known for its silky platinum beaches.
That'd be good
that day. The island nation is well known.
Hey, that's probably a good shit to go on vacation and shit.
For its silky platinum beaches, turquoise waters, and countless reefs in the ocean, all of which are teeming with vivid marine wildlife. Taking a step away from the coastline, you will find the famous Black River Gorges National Park. A park that is packed with rainforests, breathtaking waterfalls, more than 40 miles of hiking trails, and of course, the unique creature, the flying fox.
Ooh.
And by the way, did you know that Mauritius creature the flying fox?
I'm done winding it.
And by the way, did you know that Mauritius has an underwater waterfall? Well, okay, it may not technically be what it looks like, but from the sky, this spectacular sight seems to literally defy the laws of physics. This is caused by...
That's real? That looks scary. Crazy. That looks sick, but also scary because we don't know, like, what the fuck is that?
Beaches sands being forced off the plateau by oceanic currents, creating the illusion of water falling off a seabed ledge. In this beautiful country, most of the residents speak Mauritian Creole, a deviation of the French language. And after that, the traditional French and English languages are nationally understood too. Despite its small island size, more than 1.2 million people call this place home. And with an abundance of unique natural beauty and culture, it is obvious to see why too. Mauritius depends on its financial services, textiles and sugar exports, and, rather unsurprisingly, tourism to keep it afloat. And one of those taking a holiday on the island in 2011 was 27-year-old Michaela McAreavey.
So they don't even
Born
know
on December
happened
the
to her?
31st, 1983, to her mother and father, Marianne and Mickey Hart, Michaela was brought into a locally famous family.
Oh, I thought this shit happened in 1983. Okay, she was born in 1983.
Her father, Mickey Hart, was the manager of the Tyrone Gaelic football team. Now, I'm not going to pretend I know much about Gaelic football. We might have to ask Mike for that one. But in basic terms, it's a variant of Irish football consisting of 15 players per team. It's quite similar to rugby and AFL, except the ball is round. And honestly, to me, it looks like a rather strange mix-up between soccer and Australian football.
That shit look crazy though, I ain't gonna lie.
Honestly,
What is this?
Quite similar to rugby and AFL,
So
except
rugby
the ball is round.
soccer?
And honestly, to me,
Can they actually smack him? Can they actually tackle him?
Hey,
Because that
it
is nuts.
looks
And the goal is down here or up here? I'm assuming this the goal, but my boy hit
like
that shit hella high. Like,
the strange mix-up between
oh, my boy hit that shit hella high. So which one is the goal? How does it work? Because this shit look like a fun sport. Surprised it's the first time I've heard of this.
soccer and Australian football. Although this story took place in 2011, Mickey would manage Tyrone football team for 18 long years. He is also known as the most successful senior manager in the country's history, so it is rather safe to say that he did a pretty good job. As for Michaela herself, she attended St. Malachi's primary school and would later graduate with a bachelor's degree in education.
Okay.
With a father so heavily invested in the sport, football became the dominant topic in the family household. Mickey lived and breathed football, and soon enough, Michaela would too. She
Okay.
ended up being heavily invested in the sport, and as a result, grew a close bond with her father. However, loving football didn't make Michaela a tomboy. In fact, she was quite the opposite. Seen as conventionally feminine, she won several beauty pageants throughout her 20s. And with her close connection to her father's successful career, she became a micro-celebrity in her very own right, often appearing on TV shows and even interviews.
Will you welcome, please, the All-Ireland winning manager, Mickey Hart, and his daughter, Michaela.
Damn, big ass trophy. Pretty sick though. Better than a
Sam
small
down
ass trophy.
gently.
I'd rather have a big ass trophy than a small ass trophy. You know what I'm saying? So someone walks in, damn, what the hell is that big ass trophy? And you gotta explain, hey, I'm different.
Congratulations, Mickey and Michaela. Congratulations to you, because I know you've been there every step of the way.
That's right. I
Isn't
certainly
Sam
have.
looking great?
He's looking very well tonight, very shiny. I think he got a bit of a clean up for the.
I think he got
For the final.
refurbished, didn't he,
That's
for the,
right.
for the final. Have you got a man in your life at the moment?
I do. I do indeed.
Is he interested in football as
He's
much as you
definitely
are?
interested in football. He would have to be now to be any man of mine.
Yeah, does he play?
He does play, but I'm not going to say any more now because I'll get in trouble when I go back.
Yeah, he doesn't play for Tyrone then, is
Not Tyrone, no.
Ooh.
Went a bit further afield.
he? Did you? It's still north of the border?
Still in the north of the country, yeah.
All right, so, but it's not likely that they'll end up meeting Tyrone.
Well, that's a tough one now, actually, yeah. He's from County Down.
Yeah.
And we end up meeting each other, the two counties this year. So there's a wee bit of tension for a period, but
Divided loyalties
that's
in the
it.
Hart
There's only
household.
one team for me.
All right. Well,
No
look,
divided loyalties
can
from
I-
Michaela.
Can I say congratulations once again to you, Mickey, and Michaela. You were as much part of it, I think, all the way along.
Thank
And
you very
thanks very
much.
much for bringing Sam in to say hello.
You're very welcome.
Alluding to finding love in that interview, Michaela eventually married a man named John McAreavey. John was an accountant, a Gaelic football player, and the captain of his club, Tullyish. They seemed like a very well-matched couple, and their story was one of traditionally modern success. To add to her own string of achievements, Michaela would also go on to become a finalist in Ireland's Rose of Tralee beauty pageant,
Okay.
where participants are not necessarily judged on their appearances, but on their personality and suitability to serve as ambassadors. Things eventually became very serious between the two, and eventually, on December the 30th, 2010, just one day before her 27th birthday, John and Michaela officially married in a small church in
Respect,
Tyrone.
respect.
It was clear to see that the couple were madly in love with one another, and friends described their bond as unimaginably strong.
Okay.
You could even argue that, when together, the two were seen as a power couple.
Sorry, John is suspect. Like right now, everything's going
John
against
was a
John.
football player
Like
who
as
was
in,
way
like, In a good way.
Around the football pitch and a spreadsheet, Michaela was a teacher who also won several beauty pageants. As with most marriages, most newlyweds like to go on a honeymoon. And with its warm weather and idyllic scenery, it is no surprise that Michaela and John chose Mauritius. In fact, Mauritius had become somewhat of a hotspot for the Irish, and the hotel they were staying in, the Legends Hotel, was particularly sought after.
Okay, talk to me. Talk to me.
Situated on a beach in northern Mauritius, Legends was a 5-star luxury resort featuring a swimming pool looking over the Indian Ocean. Surrounded by rock pools, palm trees, forests, and beaches, it is clear to see why so many love this place too. I mean, the accommodation was pretty awesome too. Honestly, I wouldn't have said no to a place like this for a holiday. The newlywed couple touched down in Mauritius on January the 8th, 2011, where they then made their way to the idyllic resort, which was located near the northern tip of the island.
I'm just looking at the bottom. Crime scene discoveries, suspects and theories, the trial, complications and beyond, memory. Okay.
After arriving, John tested his luck by asking the concierge for a better room, and to his surprise, the hotel gave him and his wife an upgraded room to stay in. As well as being more opulent, this room was also closer to the restaurant and the beach. On January the 9th, 2011, a surveillance camera captured the both of them booking themselves into a couple of spa treatments. Michaela and John were ready to enjoy the holiday together, celebrating their love and commitment for a lifetime. However, not even in their wildest nightmares, neither of them would ever imagine that this supposed lifetime would only last for 24 more hours.
Damn, they just got there, right? So they only got to enjoy it for like a day?
The date was January the 10th, 2011. It was a Monday, and the island nation of Mauritius was enjoying 29 degrees Celsius weather, 84 Fahrenheit. Michaela and John were settling into the third day of the
Then you're next to the water, so you go to the beach and shit. Oh, look at, bro, this is lit though, I ain't gonna lie. Little lake right here.
John was given a free golf lesson as part of the hotel package, and while on his class, Michaela waited for him by the poolside. The newlywed couple reconvened shortly after noon, heading for lunch at one of the resort's restaurants named the Banyan Pool Bar and Grill. After finishing up, they planned to have tea together before getting on with the rest of their day. Now, perhaps it's the British part of me coming out here, but everyone loves something sweet alongside their tea. Rather conveniently, the couple had received a box of chocolates as part of their welcome package. And since their room was very close to the restaurant, Michaela decided to go back and grab them to have alongside her warm drink. However, as the minutes ticked by, John began to worry. Michaela said that she would be right back, but half an hour had passed and there was still no sign of her. By 1:10 p.m, he had become concerned enough. He collected his receipt.
No, not like that. She just went to go get some chocolate. What the fuck?
Michaela said that she would be right back, but half an hour had passed and there was still no sign of her. By 1:10 p.m, he had become concerned enough.
Not chocolate, but little sweets.
Collected his receipt and then made his way back to the hotel room. Knocking on his hotel room, 1025, elicited no response. Nobody appeared to be in. However, he could hear the faint sound of water through the door. And to make things more complicated, he had forgotten his room key at the swimming pool. After looking around, and having no luck finding it, he headed back to the hotel's reception to ask for a new one. The hotel staff handed him a replacement card, before one of them kindly escorted him back to his room. However, something immediately felt off when he got back to room 1025. After using the new keycard and opening the door, the sound of water increased in volume. And after peering in, John was faced with the worst possible of circumstances. Michaela's lifeless body could be seen floating in the bathtub.
What the fuck? The first suspicion would be the husband, like, if I was everyone around there, but like, bro, what? What? Who the fuck did that shit, bro? And this is an unsolved case till today, like, it's still unsolved. It's 2023, 12 years ago, shit's still unsolved. Damn, that dude just, that killer just
what
out there.
What happened next was very messy and would hinder the investigation permanently.
Or did I misread it and they said it was a solved case? This is an unsolved case, right? Let me see.
It took officers more than half an hour to arrive, and a further 1 hour to cordon off the crime scene. During this time frame, very messy and would hinder the investigation permanently. It took officers more than half an hour to arrive, and a further 1 hour to cordon off the crime scene. During this time frame, dozens of people walked in and out of the hotel room. And this included staff, doctors, and even random guests just walking by.
What?
To add to the long list of mistakes already made.
Get y'all nosy asses the fuck up out of here. Bro, that just ruined the whole fucking investigation, like I said. They're gonna be like footprints and shit like that.
Michaela's body had also been moved from the bathroom into the hallway. Anyway, although John was initially considered to be a suspect, he was eventually ruled out, and within 24 hours, 3 staff workers had been arrested. Their names were Avinash Tribhuwan, Sandeep Munia, and Raj Tikoi. Why exactly they were arrested, we'll get to in just a moment. However, they wouldn't be the only ones to be under the spotlight. So, after months of piecing the evidence together, what did investigators believe happened to Michaela? It is believed that, at 2:42 p.m., someone with access entered through the front door. This was proven through the keycard surveillance program, which highlighted that GMK5, a magnetic keycard for room service supervisor 2, had entered. It is believed that someone had entered the room to steal whatever they could find. And one piece of evidence which could support that theory is a fingerprint which would later be found on the door leading to the safe.
What?
To the thief's surprise, Michaela entered the room only 2 minutes later at 2:44 p.m. And, likely startled, the thief then tried to hide. Now, if the killer were a cleaner, then they would have had the ultimate excuse to be there. So it's widely speculated that whoever was in the room was either a janitor or a security guard. The killer or killers decided to hide in the bathroom in hopes that she wouldn't enter. Sadly, though, she did.
Damn.
And when that happened, they decided to change tactics by immobilizing her instead. It's at this point in time that they tackled her from behind and tragically strangled her to death.
Damn.
After
y'all could've just knocked. I mean, if she's seen your face, but
this, Michaela's body was placed in the bathtub and the water was turned on. And although it's not clear why, this was likely a foolish attempt to make it look like she had drowned. And as we already know, at 3:26 p.m.
That's the dumbest way to like pretend like. Come on, this is the dumbest cover up ever. She's drowned, but then again, y'all haven't got caught yet, so unless y'all have.
Those initially suspected of the crime were Avinash Tribhuwan, a 32-year-old cleaner working at the hotel, and Sandeep Munia, his 42-year-old supervisor. Raj Tikoi, who was 33 years old at the time, was also a cleaner at the resort. With much attention on the use of magnetic keycards, it was learned that all 3 men had been using them to gain unlawful access to the guest rooms. It was further learned that all 3 of them had been stealing from guests, which put them under a great deal of suspicion when it came to Michaela's death. As a result, Avinash
stealing from your guest, that's crazy.
And Sandeep were therefore charged with murder, whereas Raj was charged with conspiracy to murder. Now, at first, it seemed like
got all 3 of their asses.
A relatively open and shut case. Avinash would even confess the following day. However, this confession would later be retracted for multiple concerning reasons. And trust me, this was only the beginning of a long and messy investigation. 1 week after Michaela's murder, another 2 suspects were arrested under similar charges of aiding and abetting a crime. And these 2 were 26-year-old Dasan Narayanan and 39-year-old Sinarain Mungu. Now, Dasan is a rather peculiar suspect. Despite being hired as a security guard at the hotel, he now faced charges that accused him of quite the opposite. And to add to his charges, forensic analysis determined that his DNA was found on the door of the hotel room safe. But you see, this is where it gets quite complicated. Those who were at the crime scene before it was cordoned off were able to confirm that Dasan had entered the apartment to offer assistance after the initial discovery of Michaela's body. So his DNA being present was no longer enough to
That's what I'm saying, like y'all just fucked up the whole investigation with DNA everywhere, footprints and shit. Like y'all walking in just ruined the whole shit.
confirm or deny his involvement in the murder itself. Sinarain Mungu was another security guard at the resort and was thought to be involved. This was because investigators initially believed that his card was the one actually used to enter the room. It was also believed that these 5 men may have been part of an organized theft ring, working together to gain access to guest rooms, steal their belongings, provide an additional set of eyes, and then split the profits. Without any sufficient evidence, investigators were forced to drop all murder charges against Dasen and Sinarain. Raj Tikoi was also in the clear too, but only under one condition. He would have to testify in court against Avinash and Sandeep.
Ooh, damn, buddy, that's turned up. Damn. I mean, that's what y'all get, though. I mean, all of them should have got some
Moving
time,
to the legal proceedings of this case, it would take 16 months for the 2 remaining suspects, Avinash and Sandeep, to be put on trial.
This is a very distressing time for both our families, and the days ahead will be very difficult for us. We hope that the media will understand that we are anxious, that nothing will be said or done that will compromise or prejudice due process during the trial. We appreciate the interest and support of many media outlets over the past year, but we hope that whilst here in Mauritius, the media will recognise and accept our need for space and privacy for the duration of the trial.
Makes sense.
We want to make it clear that we will be not making any statements before the end of the trial, nor will we be taking any questions in order to respect the court proceedings. Thank you for your support, and we ask for your prayers at this time.
The major crime investigation team faced severe criticism for its handling of this case. It was revealed that, although Avinash had confessed to murdering Michaela, this was only after allegedly being beaten by officers for 3 long days.
Damn, what?
DNA tests, which were conducted by forensic experts, concluded that no DNA traces of 4 of the men were present on the body or at the crime scene.
Okay.
This, of course, excluded Dasen, whose DNA was confirmed to be on the door, but verified to occur through supporting John after Michaela's discovery. And so, with no hard DNA evidence whatsoever, how could anyone be found guilty?
That's what I'm saying. Y'all fucked up the whole shit. That's why no one got found, because y'all just walked in just randomly and shit. Like, damn.
The defense would still pull a few wildcards in their case. They argued this surveillance clip, which was conveniently leaked to the press one day before being used in the trial, captured John and Michaela arguing at the reception desk.
Bro, don't do that, bro. Don't try to blame John, bro. That boy, if it really is him, that dude's crazy. But then again, that dude was outside at the fucking little spot they were at. He was waiting for where they were drinking tea and shit. That man that lost his wife on a honeymoon, bro. They wasn't even. I mean, but like, come on.
If these 2 were in fact John and Michaela, then it would have obliterated the case. However, it was clearly captured around 15 minutes after she had been murdered, and was therefore a clear distraction set by the defense.
Stupid.
As you can likely imagine,
Stupid. Like, y'all ain't even looking at
prosecutors
stupid.
were having none of it. An assistant commissioner of the police confirmed that this video was footage of 2 separate guests from Germany, and so the footage was eventually dismissed by the court.
No shit,
The
that's
defense
not them.
team
The
would
court is
heavily
gonna
lean on
dismiss.
blaming John for his wife's murder, despite this not making any technical sense whatsoever. Surveillance cameras and witnesses had him accounted for the entire time. The defense would also drag Michaela's name through the mud,
Damn.
suggesting that perhaps she had died from a sexual fantasy with a stranger gone wrong.
Y'all some psychopath ass. Like, bro, come on, bro. She dead and y'all saying she was cheating? Come on, man. Not saying, but like, come on.
After being cleared of his involvement, Raj Tikoi would eventually take to the stand in their trial, where, as mentioned before, he was offered full immunity if he promised to speak the truth by testifying against Avinash and Sandeep. Raj claimed that at around 2:45 p.m, which was before Michaela's death, he saw a cleaning trolley with Avinash's name outside room 1025. Just as he was walking away from the trolley, he heard a woman screaming out in pain, which prompted him to run and hide nearby in room 1021. After that, he claimed that he saw Avinash and Sandeep walking away from room 1025, looking rather worried and disgruntled.
Oh, how convenient. I mean, but it could be complete. But how convenient you just started talking after they gave you a
And when he confronted them, they threatened him with his life should he say anything to anyone.
So I don't give a fuck.
As you can likely imagine, this case was a very...
Not really a snitch. In that situation, you're not really snitching. You're just telling the truth because you just killed some innocent person, bro. You deserve to go to jail
moment for Mauritius. Like many of my videos on Thailand, and as with all countries that heavily depend on tourism, there is a strong desire to make sure that all tourists feel safe on their holiday. So, safe to say, the last thing that they wanted was to have a killer roaming free on the streets. Everyone felt this pressure in Mauritius, from the hotel staff, who now had to work extra hard to earn the trust of their guests, right up to the president, who made fresh calls to reinstate the death penalty. The defense were up against some very big figures too, so they had to use very heavy tactics to their advantage. They highlighted and criticized Mauritius's corrupt police force, and further claimed that they had selected two poor workers as scapegoats to rid the country of an unsolved murder. Now, unfortunately, there is some level of truth behind these claims too. The police force in Mauritius is often criticized for beating confessions out of potential suspects.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So it's technically not too far of a reach for Avinash to have been forced into making one. To add to this, the police had also failed to conduct basic diligence.
Imagine getting whooped into confession, bro. That is crazy. Imagine if you didn't do it, but you just say it because that's what they want to hear type shit. Damn, that's crazy.
They had failed to secure the crime scene swiftly, failed to take fingerprints from an allegedly stolen wallet, and even failed to find any DNA at the scene. Tension inside the courtroom grew to a peak around Avinash's confession. With no DNA or concrete evidence available, his own written confession was probably the most damning article at hand. However, with allegations of police brutality in a force that is well known to practice it, no one could be sure whether or not it was a natural confession or one that was forced out of him. On one hand, Avinash was medically examined and noted to have no injury all 3 times he was supervised. But on the other hand, his recount of events sounded too accurate to be fabricated. Although this case was initially planned to be wrapped up within 2 weeks, it would actually take almost 2 months for the jury to reach a verdict. However, after only 2 hours of deliberation, they unanimously came to their decision. Avinash Tribhuwan and Sandeep Munia were officially found to be not guilty of the murder of Michaela McAreavey. As a result, they were officially free and released from the courtroom.
Damn. And they're just living their regular life.
As you can likely guess with such a verdict, Michaela's family were devastated by the news. And after 7 long weeks at trial, they felt no justice had been served. John and the Hart family were certain that Sandeep and Avinash were in fact the real killers too, and so this verdict came with great frustration. Many changes were made in the aftermath of this trial too, with one of those most notable being a change to the country's own laws. Now, suspects could be retrialed for the same crime. These law changes were a direct result of Michaela's case, so it is clear to see that both the authorities and the government were unhappy with the jury's verdict. John gave an emotional statement after the trial, saying that no matter what, he would always fight for justice for his wife, even if it took him 20 years longer. However, sadly, months of no breakthrough would eventually turn into years. And still to this day, no one has been found guilty. Now, that's not to say there hasn't been some progress.
That's what I'm saying. 12 years later, that man got whoever killed him or who they were that killed him got to live extra 12 years, bro.
Some of it good, and some of it bad. Following repeated calls
as in free people too,
for the trial to be reopened, Michaela's case has been reopened and closed again several times, with most recent investigations starting in June 2021 and are still in review to this day. But unfortunately, just as this case was beginning to pick up speed, Raj Tikoi allegedly took his own life. he was found hanging a short journey from his home. People do wonder if foul play was involved, especially since he was the only key witness to a case that is once again building momentum. And even now, police are still actively reviewing his case. In March 2022, Dasen Narayan, who was one of the original 5 suspects, was rearrested on new allegations of conspiracy to commit theft. Moving back to the day that Michaela was murdered, security room key GMK5 was used to gain access to her room only 2 minutes before she had returned. It turns out that GMK5 was a key specifically used by security, and on the morning that she had been murdered, this key...
But that would be convenient because he did come back and help with the situation, so that was his excuses, like reason why his fingerprints were at the scene. So it would make sense though. He was trying to steal, he killed her, and then came back to help, pretend like he was like trying to be a good guy and all. And his fingerprints was everywhere.
Had been swapped with a dummy key card. The dummy key card was checked for fingerprints, and the results confirmed that Dasen's DNA was found on it. Now, Dasen's excuse is that he gave GMK5 to Sandy. He later claimed that police had tortured him into giving this statement. And, rather suspiciously, all of his charges were then suddenly dropped. To make things even more strange, he was never even used as a witness in court. Sandeep Munia has also been arrested in 2022 under fresh charges of stealing a magnetic keycard. With these new arrests, it is almost certain that both men were part of an underground thief operation at the Legends Hotel at the time of Michaela's death. Now, if Michaela's death seemed to be prompted by her unexpectedly walking in on an intruder, then these dots suddenly begin to connect themselves. But whether any breakthrough will actually come to light, or if Michaela will ever receive the justice she deserves, is yet to be seen. The fact that, more than 10 years later, no one has been brought to justice for this dreadful crime only serves to compound the grief and pain endured by Michaela's family.
That's tough.
Michaela was a unique and diverse young woman.
That's gotta be the word, bro. Losing someone and not having someone to blame for it, like not having the right justice.
She managed to bring glamour and poise to a sporting world often seen as masculine. She worked hard throughout her life, had a profound impact on her family and friends, and was loved by many beyond, both sporting fans and admirers alike. Not only was she gifted and down to earth, but she was a wonderful loving wife and an adored daughter. The world was robbed of a bright spark when she was taken all too soon, on what should have been one of the happiest moments of her life. Michaela's funeral was eventually held in the same church she was married in only 3 weeks prior, and a hall that had recently been filled with joy and happiness was now filled with pain, confusion and sorrow.
We're giving people this chance to say, look, this is how we feel. Many people have felt like this in the past. This is our day to bear this cross. We just love our Michaela. She was such a good girl. And, you know, every father would have said about their daughter, but I can say that without a shadow of a doubt. She was a gem, and we'll always remember her. And what a day she had on her wedding day. She was just radiant, beautiful girl, and I just love her to bits, and so does our whole family. And we just are so devastated.
A few side notes to mention in this case, but following the verdict, some of the Irish community initiated a boycott against visiting Mauritius, and this protest was even backed by Irish politician Sean Kelly. Now, this is a difficult option to consider. While I do understand the pain and anguish that Michaela's family and friends must feel, I don't think a single murder should deter millions of people from visiting the island, nor do I think it would be fair for so many innocent workers to lose their livelihood. This is not to say that no action is required, however. It is clear to see that various levels of corruption ran through this case, with a staggering amount of incompetence to go alongside it. And even still, to this day, police corruption makes newspaper headlines on a monthly basis. Speaking of headlines, in July 2012, a Mauritian newspaper called The Sunday Times published photographs of the crime scene, which even included images of Michaela's body under the headline "Exclusive." In light of this news, police officers raided the offices of the newspaper the very next morning, but rather conveniently found none of the photographs in question. And even to this day, nobody knows who published them or how. In November 2015, and with the blessing of the Hart family, John remarried to a woman named Tara Brennan. To this day, he still fights for justice for Michaela, and Tara has been an important part of his own internal healing. I sincerely hope that the two are happy and are able to live a fulfilling life. After Michaela's murder, the Legends Hotel has since changed its name to the Lux Grand Galb in an effort to distance itself from the awful crime which took place there. They have also renumbered the room in which Michaela was murdered, simply changing it from room 1025 to room 1026.
The fuck? Hey, no, hey, yo, I'm not bro. Hey, the fuck? I look like staying in a hotel room when someone else was killed. Hopefully they don't give no one that room and shit.
They have also renumbered the room.
Like, I renumbered it, okay, that's cool. But that shit better not be a regular room for regular people to stay at. Cause the fuck, bro, someone just got killed in that bathtub. Nah.
In which Michaela was murdered, simply changing it from room 1025 to room 1026. All subsequent rooms have been renumbered, and 1025 no longer exists. So, if you do find yourself staying at the Lux Grand Galb, please be wary of your hotel room. You may just end up staying in the very one where an incredible young woman.
But nope, like I said, nope. 1026, nope. Hell no. Nope.
Personally speaking, I'm not too sure what to think about changing room numbers. Because if it were me, I would have closed that room off forever.
That's what I'm saying. What does, like, y'all just giving out that room for like nothing just happened. Like everything is normal in that room. No, shit is not normal in that room. Shit is not normal.
Clear to see that there was a great deal of corruption throughout this case, which unfortunately is probably why it's still unsolved to this day. I hope that moving forward, we will eventually find her killer, or killers. So, what do you think about this case? Do you think that Avinash and Sandeep murdered Michaela? Or do you think it was someone else? Because honestly, I am not too sure what to think here, as there seems to be so many avenues and possibilities. Anyway folks, I think I'm going to wrap this case up here today. So once again, thank you so much for watching another video today.
Hey, what's poppin'? That's gonna do it for that video. If you enjoyed that, subscribe to that road 2K join if I want to be done. But like I said, man, if you got me messed everything, I'm staying in that room. I don't give a fuck if y'all change that number or what the hell. I'm not staying in that area. I'm not staying at that hotel regardless no more. What the hell? Yeah, I'm got 233 million views. God damn, bro. 2K, bro. What's up with me? But we out here.